Mike, I think we're wearing out this knob here. I'm Liam, he's Rob, and welcome to the Higgins Podcast. This week, we take a look back at one of the most canon, the most cocaine-inspired, the most nonsensical movie star vehicles of the 1980s. Sylvester Stallone's arm wrestling epic, if there is such a thing, 1987's wonderfully dopey Over the Top. Does it hold up? Did it ever hold up? Does the fact that it was never actually good mean that it's still oddly watchable today? Well, it turns out the answer is definitely yes. Over the Top wasn't a good movie in 1987. It's certainly not a good one in 2024. But what it always has been, and what it remains to this day, is an oddly enjoyable slice of 80s excess and absurdity, and one with a much better soundtrack than it deserves. It's not quite Rocky IV, but Rob, man, Jesus Christ, there is a lot of 80s soft rock in this movie.
It's one of my biggest notes. The fucking soundtrack is better than this film deserves. I couldn't
100%.
get over it. It's so good. Like you had Kenny Loggins and other names I didn't write down. Like
Oh, I've got the
it's
names here. Like, it's got an absolute belter of a soundtrack. And I've, just to be clear, I have had Meet Me Halfway by Kenny Loggins stuck in my head
yeah,
all fucking week. And do you know the reason why? Because they played that song in this movie about 72 times. Now, that is an exaggeration. They play it twice, but I'm pretty sure they played the whole song as a stand-in for Mike and Hawk's relationship.
yeah.
Every time there's a montage, like, get me Loggins, you know?
You know why as well? Because I'm pretty sure that was going to be the original name
Oh, Meet Me
of the
Halfway.
film, Meet Me Halfway. But the
Mhm.
fact that they say over the top about 9,000 times within the film, you have to go with over the top. Which
Yeah.
leads me to a big question. Is over the top a thing? In professional
Go,
arm wrestling, is it a thing?
is it a thing in anything going over the top? I've never heard the term before or since. I've heard the term like, oh, he went a bit over the top, but that's in terms of like losing your cool.
Yeah,
It's not
losing
in
your
terms
rag or
of like
something.
pushing on to the next level kind of thing. Like, yeah, like I think it kind of start and died with this movie. So
Well,
yeah, it
good,
doesn't
because
it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, they said over the top enough for all of us, to be fair.
Which
The
is a
other thing,
strange thing because you obviously relate over the top to arm wrestling in this movie and, kind of pushing and, it's like, oh, we're really close,
yeah,
but I've got to go over the top to win. I've got to turn my cap backwards, all that nonsense. But the surprising thing with this movie is there's not actually that much arm wrestling. Like when you go back and rewatch it, sure, there's like the last 30 minutes is basically a big arm wrestling competition. But in the build-up, there's only two arm wrestles.
yeah. So that's it, isn't it? Basically, you can boil this film down to it's truck driving and then arm wrestling. There's no in between. They drive the truck all the way pretty much up to the arm wrestling contest. So you've got a trucker movie to begin with, and then they've
Mhm.
decided, oh no, we set this film around arm wrestling, so we'll have to bring it at the end. What I did put down with this film is Lincoln Hawk is too good of a hero name to waste on this film. Like Lincoln
It's a
Hawk is
shame
awesome.
he saved all of his best names for like some of his worst movies. I know, and don't get me wrong, right? I'm talking about this movie the same way we've done a podcast on it about Cobra. So in Cobra in this, he's had two of the best movie star names of all times. Both of those movies aren't very good, but both of them are unbelievably watchable. This movie's more fun than Cobra, but both are like on an objective
Oh no,
level.
I disagree.
I think they're both quite bad in their own way.
Oh, no, no, they're bad,
Whereas,
but I disagree. Cobra is more watchable. But this is coming, I guess, coming from an action movie fan. Cobra is more watchable. I am not going to go back
Mhm,
and rewatch Over the Top for a while. I probably won't again, to be fair. And there's only and it's not a bad film. It is
mhm,
not, like you said, it's fun to watch. My
yeah.
problem is
Oh,
Mike.
I know where this is going.
My
100%.
prob, well, Mike.
Of course it's Mike.
My problem is Mike. I cannot stand him. He is such a whiny little shit, and it
Yeah.
fucking does my Sweden everything to the calorie counting to everything. Everything he does just really like, and how fickle he was to just go, oh, do you know what? Actually, I do love my dad. Like, fuck off. And
Yeah, he goes back
I
and forth.
appreciate he's been lied to. It's been 12
Mhm,
years and all that. And Robert
Loja.
Loggia is a fucking evil bastard in this, absolutely. But
Is he?
yeah, well, yeah,
I
he
mean, as far as movie, that's another issue I have with this film. It's like when I thought back to this film, the thing you remember, and because it's all over the poster or some of the posters at least, you remember Bull. You remember Bob Bull Hurley, the big, arm wrestling
Yeah.
showdown at the end of the film. And then you rewatch this film, and again, like the arm wrestling, Bull shows up very briefly at the truck stop, which we will get to, the fucking truck stop sequence, which is amazing. He stands there looking like the sweatiest man who's ever lived. Like he puts the Rock to shame. He's fucking glistening. And he's like, he looks the part. He's all like intense. And you're like, oh my God, this is going to be this amazing showdown. Then Julie disappears from the movie for the next hour. Like he's in it for like 5 minutes and then he disappears. And I don't just mean like you don't see him. He's not referenced. He literally falls off the face of the earth. And the bad guy ostensibly becomes Robert Loggia. And Robert Loggia's like greatest crime is that his goons are a little bit heavy-handed, but Jesus Christ, he's hardly Darth Vader.
We need to go back. I'm sorry. I know you said we'll get to it, and I already mentioned Rob Loggia, and I wanted to cover that as well. But you cannot gloss over Bull being sweaty, right? When he grabs Mike's hand, leans over him, he's holding his hand, he's basically whispering in his ear, and he is sweating all over Mike. It is gross. And I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be included in a film today. You cannot cozy up that close to a 15 or a 12-year-old boy as he plays.
Because it shouldn't be cozy, and obviously he's just being threatening. But there is something, and I noticed it as well, the way he just takes his hand, which is just like, that's a bit weird. That would, like you said, that just wouldn't fly today. And I'm not sure exactly why, but it just wouldn't fly when he just takes his hand in his hand. I'm like, oh, Bull, that's a little bit too threatening there, buddy.
It's oddly creepy. It is very creepy.
But going back to, other than that, he does look the business. But yes, you were talking about Mike, and I do actually feel a little bit for what's the actor's name, David Mendenhall, because when he stops being a prick, you can see like he's not a bad actor, and he actually becomes relatively likable by the end of the film. But there's like a 45-minute spell where he is maybe one of the most unlikable kids in movie history.
Yeah.
Like it's to his credit that he turns it around. Like by the end, I was just like, Mike's okay. But for 45 minutes with the Sir shit and everything else that comes with it, I just can't stand him.
I'm putting him up there with the kid from Flight of the Navigator as whiny little bitches. Fucking hell.
He's worse than him. Oh, he's definitely worse than Flight of the Navigator.
Mike was, yeah, but like you said, Mike kind of redeemed himself at the end. But again, it was so fickle. But Robert Loggia, like, he decided that Hawk wasn't good enough for him. So he's done. And all right, Hawk shouldn't have left, but Hawk decided to leave because Robert Loggia was too much. So then he decides to just spread all these lies. What's his name? Jason Cutler. He spreads all these lies to Michael. Like, your dad's a drug dealer. Your dad's this, your dad's that. And and as a 12-year-old boy, you are going to believe.
Yeah, of course.
I think kids will believe a lot of what you said. I was saying goodnight to my son last night, and I usually say goodnight. And for some reason, I was going to say goodnight, don't let the bed bugs bite. But I didn't want questions about bugs in his bed. And
if you've never said that before.
But I'd already carried on with the bed, and I had a complete meltdown. So I said, "Good night. Don't let the bed people bite."
Oh, that's much worse. That's so much worse.
I know.
If you said that, I'm 42 years old. If you said that to me, it creeped me out. Who the fuck are the bed people? You honestly, at this point now, I'm just like, I feel like that is a movie. Like the bed people. Yeah, sounds a little bit rapey, but you kind of pitch that as a kids movie. The bed people, like, God damn, that is creepy as shit.
Yeah, and going back to my son obviously has questions that I can no longer answer.
Well, nobody has answers for that. Yeah. The bed people. Look, Dad, what are the bed people? Oh, mate, you don't ask about the bed people. No. It's just best that you close your eyes and hope that you don't run into them. Don't have nightmares forever.
Don't let the bed people bite. I couldn't believe I had a melt. So going back to Michael, yeah, I appreciate that.
Sorry, I have such a vivid image of you like Homer fucking Simpson in one of the Halloween specials, like slowly closing the door. Sleep tight, don't let the bed people bite, and then just slamming it and running off. Like, holy fucking shit, you will never sleep again, dude. You fucked up your kids.
I felt like mean after that. I mean, to be fair, he did go to sleep, but I just
maybe bed people is just like, he's put a positive spin on it. He's thinking more along the lines of Care Bear, but when I hear it, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you're not the only one. I said it to my wife when I went in the room, then I said to Kat, I said, I kind of just my brain had a meltdown, and I told him not to let the bed people bite, and she just fucking, you've ruined our kid. So, yeah, but sorry, through that story, and I kind of forgot where I was going. But I appreciate Michael not questioning too much. Then he's always asking Lincoln like, "Well, my granddad told me this. My granddad told me that."
Hmm.
So I appreciate that he was a bit of a dick in regards to Lincoln. Like he's had all these lies to him, so he doesn't want to
A
be.
bit.
Yeah, okay, he was a lot of a
He's
dick.
a complete
Yeah,
wankstain.
I don't know whether it was the acting from David Mendenhall for this, but I don't. I just didn't like the kid, and I was like,
It
give him a
was the
break.
script. No, no, it was the script. Because I was just like I said, the fact, when I think of most kids in annoying films, like I remember watching the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still, and it was
Yeah.
what's his name? Will Smith's son, I think, was the kid in it.
Oh, Jaden.
Um, Jaden. And I was just like, I had nothing against Jaden at that point. He was just Will Smith, so I didn't give a fuck. But he was so annoying and so unpleasant that I just couldn't enjoy the film. Like he ruined the whole film. And when you think of most kid performances, they're bad from beginning to end, or they're annoying from beginning to end. I said once the script changed and he was made a more likable character, I was like, oh, he's all right, Mike. And I quite like their relationship in the second half of the film. The problem was the script, like I said, with all he kept calling him sir, and like you said, his obsession with, fucking dietary requirements and giving everyone a dressing down. He was just written as a complete bellend, and it went on far too long. It was just too on the nose. And the fact of the matter is, like I said, this film isn't subtle. It's not particularly well written. It's made by Menahem Golan. He's a producer of comic book style movie. He did like Masters of the Universe as a producer. He produced literally hundreds of movies in the canon
Yeah.
era. So it was like Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. He did that terrible Captain America movie. He famously tried to kind of bring that aborted attempt at Spider-Man to life. But he basically directed only a handful of films, and the two that stand out are The Delta Force with Chuck Norris and 1981's Enter the Ninja. Now that's trying to give you an idea of the level of quality we're working with here. I would say this is a massive step up in quality. Like I'm not saying it's brilliantly directed, but the writing, everything else about it, it's not top tier. It's all a little bit heavy-handed. But on the other hand, the other side of that coin, this film does have its moments. Like in the opening sequence, I was, that whole like I just love America sequence is like Stallone just in his truck driving across America. You get some half decent cinematography. I was like, that's cool. I actually think the arm wrestling competition is amazing at the end. But
go back to because you brought it up, the American thing at the beginning, the montage at the beginning of him traveling. First of all, when did he shave? And secondly, Stallone driving that truck at the beginning, that looked like AI. Now, like if you ask AI to make Stallone drive a truck, that would be what you get. He looked so fake within it. I don't know whether it was filmed before or after the film. Like, oh, we need a truck driving sequence. We forgot to do it. Let's go back a bit because it just didn't fit with the rest of the film. And like I say, he looked so fake.
I thought he looked fucking awesome, bizarrely. Like, it's a weird thing at the start of the film because it's kind of like it's never dealt with. You have like him driving across country, and then it's kind of cut alongside his kid's graduation. Now, at this point, you think, well, you might as well actually make it for the graduation, but he doesn't show up. And they imply that he's like too busy washing his balls at a truck stop. I'm like, dude, just leave a little bit earlier and actually get there for the graduation rather than showing up in like the fucking guy's office and, sneaking up on your son. It's very strange. But
why was everybody staring at him? Sorry, you've mentioned that. I didn't want to go back to it. Why, when he got out of the truck, why was everybody staring at him? Is it because he had a sleeveless shirt on?
No,
everybody.
It wasn't a sleeveless shirt. It was because he had one of the worst looks ever. He went from the coolest look, and I know you refer to it as AI. When he's in the truck and he's got the cap, he's got the aviators, the stubble, which is mega important to the look, and the cool top, I was like, man, Stallone looks fucking great in this sequence. Like, like I said before, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, aesthetically, the best he ever looked was Predator. I'd make an argument that for Stallone, the best he's ever looked are moments in this film, alongside another one we just mentioned in Cobra, not his best movies. But when we did the podcast on that, there's something about like when he has a bit of stub on, this fucking Stallone looks cool as shit. He can wear the fuck out of aviators. He just pulls it off. And he looks great. But then 2 minutes later, when he gets out of the truck, and I think it's maybe the reason everyone's looking at him, he is wearing a tie with a tucked in denim shirt and slacks. It's a fucking horrible look. It's taken, like, it's almost the same look, and he just does a subtle twist on it and immediately looks like fucking ass. It's like at the end of the film when he goes to that competition in Vegas. He looks baller when he rolls up, and he's got the cap. He pulls it backwards, and then for some reason, for the last fight, he
New
takes off his
York shirt,
t-shirt.
yeah.
Yeah, what's on that fucking New York t-shirt? It's the worst. It's like something
I'm
out
not
of Flashdance.
I'm not saying at the beginning he didn't look good. I'm saying he
No, I
just
got you. I
looked
got you. Yeah.
AI. But yeah, and that's probably why he looked ass when he got out of the truck because it was filmed at completely different times.
Yeah, maybe it was. And I got to ask one question, right? Because I love the track, I love the look, but, and I know he's trying to show like his parental side. Does Hawk have too many pictures of his kid in his truck?
He's gone overboard. It's
He's
like
got 100%.
he's gone overboard. I mean, one or two pictures is fine, especially if so they're trying to say that he wasn't the absent father that he's made out to be, but
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
the line was, "Your mum sent me like I wrote your mum once, and she sent me some pictures."
mm-hmm.
So she sent him a lot of pictures once, and he's decided to put them all up. But they're of the kids, like there was a picture of him in his army uniform. So like from last week, he's got a
I thought
picture
she
of
just like,
Mike.
I thought he was just like keeping in touch with her and she was
Well, no,
constantly
that's what
sending him
I think.
pictures,
That's
but
what they're implying. But the line was
Mhm.
like, "I wrote your mum one." I think it was like something like, "I wrote your
Oh,
mum once." She
maybe,
sent me some
maybe.
pictures, but they had like that truck is implying that she's constantly
Mhm,
sending them
mhm.
pictures. Also, why is Robert Loggia stopping the letters going to Mike, but not stopping the letters going to the mum?
Maybe he's just got more power because well, I guess because she doesn't live with Robert Loggia, so like
She
Mike's
did
living
because
with.
no, she did because he went into her room.
Mhm.
He went into her room, went into her purse, found the letters that were written to her, but also one
I
letter that
guess
was
it's just
written
because
to
it's a
Mike.
kid.
But
I,
one
I
letter
guess he
that was written to
should.
Mike. So did she hide the letters from Mike as well?
I don't think, but it's weird because when she talks to him on the phone before she mysteriously dies, her conversation with him is very chill. Like it's not like that whole thing. I thought it was going to be like because she talks to Mike and then she goes, "Oh, she wants to talk to you," and he gets into the phone box and he talks to her like he talks to her like every week.
Well, they
Like
call
he
each other
like
love or darling or something like
yeah,
that.
he
So
says, "Oh,
yeah,
hey," I think he calls her honey. He's like, "Oh, hey,
yeah.
honey," and he's like super relaxed and chill with them. Like they clearly talk all the time. So surely it would come up at some point that it's like she's talking to Mike and being like, "Oh, don't you get all these letters?" But that's the weird thing with Mike. Like everyone has this idea, like they really care about Mike. One, for whatever reason, Hawk left, but he definitely left, and all he's doing is writing letters. He's just driving off. Late, he's laying pipe. Look at the fucking state he's in. 1987. I'm not sure how quite how he's getting in that good a shape with that truck with his little workouts in the morning and eating steak. There's just no way he's getting in that good shape, but fine. His mum, I don't know how much she gives a shit. And even like Robert Loggia, who's fucking hell bent on keeping hold of Mike, he sent him to military school. You don't send a kid you love to military school. You send a kid to military school who you do not want to fucking deal with. So I just
Why
never quite get the whole obsession everyone has with Mike when on the other side of that coin, it appears like nobody gives a fuck about Mike as well.
why are you sending him to military school as well, so far away? Now, I appreciate there's probably not many military schools, but like he's got to get on a plane to get wherever he's going. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a long way off. So you really don't. Nobody wants Mike around, as you just said. He's like, fucking hell, this
Nobody.
kid's doing my head in. We
Because
just
he's
got to
a
get rid of it.
dick.
Yeah.
Everybody likes the idea of Mike, and then they spend 5 minutes. It's like, I bet you it's like he's been building up to it, Hawk, and he's like, man, I'm gonna drive my kid across country. We're gonna reconnect. Within 2 minutes, he's like, fuck, this kid's annoying, man. This kid is super annoying. And it's like he does actually get a bit better, with after the diner and stuff like that. But then as soon as he has that one moment when his mum dies, like he immediately turns on Hawk again, runs away, jumps in a taxi. Where the fuck is that taxi going? Like how that taxi driver was like, oh, could you drive me like 300 miles? That taxi driver was like, yeah, I'll fucking do it. Jesus Christ. And then he just like, yeah, well, we'll get to the funeral and what happens after that
Yeah.
soon.
You
But
said about you said about Stallone was laying pipe.
yeah,
There's
of
got to
course.
be, yeah, absolutely. It's got to be because he's stopping off at these truck stops, arm wrestling and picking up some lot lizards. Like he's definitely going for it. So
Well, you've seen what it's like in those 80s truck stops, and it is so 80s. I mean, right, when he pulls up and he's got did you notice the advert on the side of his truck for a starter? It's for Brute, which I haven't seen since like the late
yeah,
80s, early 90s. And the tagline for it is Brute, it smells like a man. Now, if I was looking for a deodorant and it said it smells like a man, I don't know why. I'd be like, yeah, fuck that. It just sounds gay. I don't want to
because
tell you.
especially in our film, it's smelling like bull. Like, I'm all
Yeah.
right. I don't want to smell like bull. Look at the
I don't
sweaty
know why.
bastard.
When I see the headline, it smells like man. What I actually hear is it smells like balls. That's what I hear. So anyway, I think that's bonkers.
I don't think I wanted to smell like bull's balls.
No, nobody wanted to smell like bull's balls. Jesus Christ, that was tricky to say.
Yeah.
But like he rolls into that truck stop. It's in the middle of the day. They are all getting fucking smashed day drinking. All of them pulled up in trucks. All of them are getting fucked up. I was like, this is fucking amazing. This is only how nobody bats an eyelid because it's the 80s. It's like, oh, no drink driving. It's like, well, there's a limit. I'm only having 4 or 5. It'll be absolutely fine. Like the fact that it just happens to be arm wrestling in the back of this truck stop. Like, what is his name? Is it Smasher rolls up?
Oh, yeah, I'm Smasher. Is played by a guy called Magic Schwartz.
Oh, the names in this film. The real names are better than the fake names.
Yeah, Magic Schwartz. That is absolutely like
Greg Magic Schwartz. That sounds like a wrestler. Why did they even bother changing his name? That's Magic Schwartz is better than Smasher. But anyway, he rolls up. He's like, hey, I want to fuck you up, and all that stuff to talking jive. And there just happens to be a fucking arm wrestling setup in the back. And it's just like, okay. And everyone,
do you know what?
And everyone's into it. Like it's 2 a.m. in the morning and they have been fucking pounding beers for hours. The sun is up, dude. This truck stop is bananas.
Well, it's lunchtime. Oh, it's afternoon, isn't it? Because he's just picked up from he's just picked up from the graduation.
I often get 5 beers deep and have an arm wrestling competition at fucking lunchtime.
I questioned the arm wrestling like setup as well. They kind of answered that at the end when they were in the competition because Link was part of the trucker section.
Wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah, the trucker contingent. So apparently they've got a lot. You've got the Teamsters. That black dude who said he's cheating. I wasn't ready. He was from the Teamsters section. Then you got
I missed that.
Yeah, then you got Link as part of the truckers contingent. I don't know what he said in there, but it was truckers bracket or something. So I'm guessing all the truckers do, as you said, is drive, fuck, and arm wrestle. Oh, and eat some steak. So
that's pretty much
it seems because Bull
says later on.
So that was why Bull was there as well, because Bull was a trucker.
Yeah, it is. I just think it's weird that there's this whole kind of. It's kind of like Karate Kid. It's like the movie, and we never questioned it back in the 80s, that everyone is it San Fernando Valley or wherever it is somewhere, certain part of the country where it's not San Fernando Valley, it's somewhere anyway.
It's called the All Valley competition, isn't it? So yeah.
But it kind of, it only works on the implication that everybody in this town is mega into karate. Everyone's super into karate. Like everyone goes to the competition. Everyone wants to be in karate. Like it's just not a thing. And it's kind of the same with this kind of like pretend world. It's like the low key version of like John Wick, where there's just like hitmen everywhere. And it's just, this.
But there's no real people. There's just hitmen. Like there's everybody knows. Well, all of Las Vegas.
Yeah. All
of Las Vegas were at the arm wrestling competition. And it's such a big thing. There were 500 competitors. And every competitor has to lose twice before they move on. So they whittled it down from 5.
Wait, you caught that, yeah? You caught the fact that this is double elimination. Because, my God, the only thing repeated more than logins in this movie, and maybe over the top, is it's a double elimination. You did catch it as a double elimination. By the way, it's a double elimination. Oh, except for Bull, who goes out after he loses once.
That's what I mean. So they didn't actually... I wrote that down as well. Why didn't they say the final's not a double elimination? Because Bull was done, like after the first one. But what was my point? 500 people with a double elimination.
Mm-hmm.
But the competition's one day.
And it's weird. Like they make so many strange decisions. Like they keep stressing, this is the semi-finals. And there's 8 people. I'm like, no, that's the quarterfinals. It's not the semi-finals. And I didn't even catch the fact that it's different groups, like you said, the arm wrestling truckers group and the Teamsters. So, right, the truckers, when they won the competition, a big part of it is you win the money, but you also get this fucking dope-ass truck, yeah? What happens if one of the Teamsters wins it? Does it turn into like a bullseye situation where it's like Greg from fucking Bolton wins a speedboat? He's like, what the fuck? What the fuck do I do with a speedboat?
I live in the water. I live in a place that's landlocked. Like, come on.
I live in a council estate in Bradford, and you've given me a fucking speedboat. What am I going to do with this? Is that what it's going to be like for the teams to do? Is it's like, what the? But then I do, like, if you said to me, what's the ideal gift for a quote unquote teamster? I have no fucking idea.
I haven't got a clue. I mean, I haven't heard the word Teamster, so but I heard that from there. So I was trying to figure out what I say. Figure out. I didn't really
Mhm.
Google it. I could have done that. So, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's
It sounds like if you'd done just the tiniest bit of investigation, you totally could have figured that out. But it's fine.
yeah.
It's fine. No
No, no,
problem.
no. I mean, who wants to be prepared for a podcast?
Yeah,
Fuck
balls
that.
to that. Fuck that
Yeah.
news.
It's so funny. Like there's so many people there. And that's what I love about this. Apparently, then all of a sudden, in this universe,
Mm.
America is just all over arm wrestling.
Arm wrestling. Yeah,
Even
yeah,
to the point, like
massively.
at that first truck stop, like you said, where there was the first arm wrestling competition, when he walks in to take out Magic Schwartz, and you got the guys in the back going, "Come on, Link, over the top, Link, over the top." Like
Yeah, everyone
when
knows
I
his
grew up,
catchphrase.
when I grew up watching this as well, I thought that was his special move. But even the guy who tells you the double elimination all the time says we have this move in arm wrestling called over the top. So no,
It
apparently it's just
seems
a
to be a
thing.
thing. Although two things, I when I thought back because I watched this film loads when I was younger. Loads. It's just one of
Oh
those
no,
films that
I've only seen it about 5 times.
I saw a whole bunch when I was younger. And like I said, we always knew, my brother and I, that it wasn't a very good Sylvester Stallone film, but it was also really enjoyable. It really is. And let's be clear, it was you knew what they were trying to recreate. They were trying to recreate Rocky IV. This comes out 2 years after Rocky IV, and structurally it's very similar, right down to the celebration at the end. And in well, the most obvious comparison is it's 50% music. And
Yeah,
after you have the diner thing, that's when Mike starts warming to Hawk, and you have their kind of blossoming relationship. But that blossoming relationship isn't dealt with in any way by dialogue. It's just by music. So they bring in Kenny Loggins again, Meet Me Halfway, which I'm not complaining because it's a fucking banger. And I would say, like, I know Stallone had an issue with this film. So he had many issues. Like when people talk to him, like one of the first questions, why did you make fucking Over the Top? This is coming 2 years off, like maybe his biggest, like 85, he did Rocky IV and he did First Blood Part 2. And he's arguably, no, he is the biggest movie star in the world because Schwarzenegger's not quite there yet. And then in 87, like, why do you make this? And it's just like, well, it was that crazy canon thing where Golan just kept throwing money at him. He kept saying no. Gunn just kept doing lines of coke, and for every line of coke, he just added another 10 million to his fucking paycheck. And it's actually one of the reasons this movie was a flop because, unbelievably, this movie in 1987 cost 25 million to make.
yeah.
Where did the money go? Oh, up fucking Stallone's nose. That's where the money went.
I love it how he's got a problem with this film, but he's all right with Rhinestone.
Well, everyone has it. Well, the thing is, he just said, like, there's two things. Well, one, he only did it for the money, but then also, amongst his many critics, he said, and I quote, I would have made it less glossy and set it more in an urban environment for one. Next, I would have not used a never-ending stream of rock songs, but scored music instead, and most likely would have made the event in Vegas more ominous, not so carnival-like. That all sounds good on paper, but what you're doing is ripping the heart and soul out of this movie because the songs, and as we mentioned it earlier, what it reminded me of, this is like the less classier version of, did you ever see Mission to Mars? It's a Brian De Palma film.
Yeah.
Like turn of the century, obviously set on Mars. That movie is bang average, but it's got this unbelievable Ennio Morricone score. Unbelievable score for a bang average film. This is the soft rock equivalent where you've got Robin Zander, you've got Big Trouble, Frank Stallone, Asia, Giorgio Moroder, Larry Green, all these great guys doing amazing work. But there are three songs, which are the aforementioned Kenny Loggins song. There's the Take It Higher, the Larry Green track from the end credits, which I think is a belter. And the one I always remembered growing up was Winner Takes It All.
I had that one by Sammy Hagar, yeah.
So is that the song you associate with this film? Because when I was growing up, that's the song, that was the song. Now, going back and listening, I was just like, why hasn't Meet Me Halfway been on my playlist for the last fucking 30
To be
years?
fair, I until I watched it this time, I've never associated music with this film.
Which is bizarre, right? Because it's like 40% music.
That's right. But again, I've only ever seen it a couple of times, and it's been a long time since I've last seen it. But I don't associate music with this film like I would if I'm thinking of a Sylvester Stallone film. You think of Rocky IV, fucking hell. Yeah. I can Hearts on Fire and all those songs.
These are a slower burn, and it's interesting you say that because if you had asked me before I rewatched him when doing the podcast. I didn't I always remember Winner Takes It All, but I didn't think of it as a music movie in the same or a montage movie in the same way as Rocky IV. Certainly not in the same conversation. And maybe it's because I was just self-aware, aware of it going into it because I've done some reading, blah, blah, blah. But all of a sudden I was like, man, there are fucking so many songs in this movie.
Yeah.
It's just as good as they are, and they are good. It is B tier stuff. Like if you're talking like you said, Rocky Four is the gold standard for montage movies. Then this is on the second rung, but it is low key very good though, and it does, like I
Yeah.
said, because the movie isn't great. It not only does an array of montages place it very specifically in the 80s, it's the style of songs again. You go back, you rewatch it, and go, man, this movie was so fucking made in 1987. It's not just
Oh
the
yeah.
80s, it's 1987.
You know,
But
you said as well they kept throwing money at Sylvester Stallone.
mhm.
There's a reason for that because they wanted Star Power. The original actor that was going to be Lincoln Hawk,
Mhm.
Don Johnson.
Well, that's a very different movie with a much
Yeah.
smaller budget, I suspect. But I would argue, and it didn't quite work out because, as I said, this movie didn't make its budget back. I think it made 16 million off a 25 million budget. I think it's since become a hit because it's become this massive cult film and is really popular on VHS and all that jazz. But in many respects, like Over the Top is like the ultimate test of a movie star's appeal. It's like, can we literally take a movie about anything and sell it because your name is on the poster? Like, I think of like maybe Hetch and Will Smith, like at his peak, where you're like, what the fuck is even a Hetch? They were just like, it's just a Will Smith movie. Who gives a fuck? It's kind of got that vibe about it where it's just like the arm wrestling is almost completely irrelevant in terms of selling this movie. It's just look on the poster, it's Sylvester Stallone, and it might have actually done okay business for one for the fact that they paid Stallone so much money. But
And I want to do a you right now because you're usually the guy to do this. What a fucking poster! If you
such a
think
good
about that
poster.
poster, you got Stallone showing this is my arm wrestling arm. Then you've
Mhm,
got the only action sequence in there where
mhm.
it's the truck crashing into the car, and then just behind
The
Stallone's
truck
head,
crashing into
then
the house. You mean?
no, the truck he crashes when they kidnap Mike.
Oh
When they
yeah, well,
kidnap Mike,
oh
he
yeah, yeah.
crashes into
Sorry,
the car.
I
So
still think of
that
like the big action sequence
that's not
is
really
Robert
an
Loggia's
action sequence.
house.
I don't think that's really an action
Of
sequence.
course, I mean, dude, he
No,
drives a truck
he
through the
drives
guy's
a truck
house.
through. He drives a
Isn't
truck through the house. It's done. That's like that's civil damage. What he's done here,
civil
like
damage.
he's
Semantics, sir. That is an action sequence. That's like the
no,
big
no, no, no.
action
The
set
action
piece.
sequence is when he's chasing the bad guys. That's okay. That's your action set. He's
That
chasing
is
the bad
also an
guys,
action one.
and you
Yeah, fair.
crash into him, and you've got the silver hawk just behind his head. What a
Yep, yep, yep.
fucking poster! It's absolutely, and
Great
then
poster.
obviously the over the top. It is.
Again,
It is
another
great. Can I?
similarity with Cobra. Another
Yeah.
like I know we're probably just the other side of the fence on both those films. Like we probably both feel very similar about both films, but I because of largely down to my nostalgia for it, I'd probably just about prefer Over the Top to Cobra and vice versa. But they're both, let's be clear, bang average movies at best, but with two of the greatest posters of 80s cinema. Without,
Oh yeah. The
don't get
post.
me wrong, Cobra is still the gold standard by which nearly all of the posters are as I mentioned earlier, the idea that Stallone looks great in this movie. Stallone has never looked better than on that Cobra poster. It's fucking unbelievable how cool he looks.
Like because that poster is so minimalist, but it tells you so much about the character.
Oh,
I fucking
so
love the Cobra
iconic. I
poster.
love the gun, the toothpick,
Yeah.
like I said, the glasses. He just wears the shot of them. But although, literally, I know this isn't a Cobra podcast and this is nothing to do with anything, but I literally cannot talk about Cobra anymore since we did the podcast without thinking of him cutting fucking pizza with the
Yeah,
scissors.
the
I
way
just can't do it. I
yeah,
can't do it.
I'm glad I pointed that out because the way he eats pizza is insane. So I've
Oh
been
my God.
trying for the last 5 minutes to bring it back to over the top, and he just
Sorry, mate. Sorry,
you love
mate.
it. Go talking about the only action set piece, right? Again, Mike was really not that shook up that he was kidnapped. No, I appreciate that he probably got talked to at the end, like, oh no, they were from your grandfather, so they were just taking you back to him. But at the beginning, he was kidnapped. He was like in
Yep.
his mind, there's guys taking me. But he really like the joke they made when Hawk saved him at the end. He said, "Oh, you'll be all right" and stuff like. It's like, dude, you were
Mhm.
just fucking kidnapped.
Well, I think they're trying to add a bit of kind of threat to Robert Loggia. Like this idea, like I said, the worst thing he really does is that he's a little like the guys he sends to get his grandson back are a little bit heavy-handed. But that's what happens when you send Terry Funk and his crew to pick up your son.
Terry
But
Funk and Robert Loggia's personal secretary. When he
fantastic.
comes to Hawk in the jail and he goes, "Oh, I'm Mr. Cutler's personal
Mhm.
secretary." Like, dude, you are not intimidating in the slightest.
He really isn't. He really isn't. And that's my big issue with this film. I mean, I've got a few issues with this film. But what they really should have done is connect Loja with Bull. So what they should have had is like in Loja's head, and I keep calling him Robert Loja rather than Cutler, but I'm going to stick with it now. He should have been like, listen, I want to keep my grandson. The only way that Hawk is going to be able to get his son back is if he gets the money necessary to do so and makes himself kind of financially as a viable father. And he does so by winning this arm wrestling competition. He finds out about it and he gets in touch with Bull and starts like he pays Bull to like fuck with him. So all the way to the competition, he's making life fucking misery. And then of course it all sets up with like Bull actually, competing against him in the final showdown. That's what they should have done. This movie needed a connection between Loja and Bull because for the most of the movie, the bad guy is Loja. And then at the end, you're suddenly stuck with Bull. And it's like Loja's there in the crowd watching Hawk and Bull arm wrestle. And he's like, he seems consigned to his fate. And it doesn't make any sense. Hawk has signed over custody to Robert Loja. As far as I'm concerned, winning an arm wrestling competition does not make any difference to what I'm sure is an ironclad legal document. At the end of it, he's just like, well, that's great, Hawk, you've won, but you've signed over custody. I'm taking him home. That's the end of it.
Where's the scene, right, where he goes, you know what, we'll sort it out. It's fine. I can see he wants his dad, blah, blah. So they needed that scene. To make Robert Loggia a bit more human. Yeah. But it just, like I said, it's not. Basically now, in the eyes of the law, Hawk is kidnapping him in this new truck. 100%. He's kidnapping this kid. And nobody actually mentions as well, the Hawk is walking away with 190 grand. He put 7 grand, 20 to 1 on himself. So that's for 140. And then 50 grand, the winner's purse. And what I'm guessing is about a 250 grand truck. So he's fucking laughing.
There were some great trucks in this movie, which we'll get to in Loves and Hates anyway. But we have to, like, when I think of this movie, and you're building up, of course, towards the big event in Vegas. So you have the truck stop, showdown. Then you have a bunch of music and a bunch of montages. And then the next quote unquote big sequence is the diner sequence, which I fucking love because it's so dumb. It feels like it feels like something out of The Wizard. It's like there are amazing arcade machines for one. They got like the classic Mario Brothers arcade game and all that jazz. And he convinces his son to have an arm wrestle with an 18-year-old. He's referenced in, if you look at IMDb, Big Boy Richie, played by Jimmy Keegan. He was 18 and he looked 18. There's no way he's losing an arm wrestle to a 12-year-old kid.
Do you know who
Sylvester Stallone's classic chat-up line to a bunch of kids? So any of you kids arm wrestle? Dude, if I was if I was 14 and I do come, I was like, it's like asking you if you like gladiator movies. Like, this dude wants to rattle my ass. I'm running for the exit. Ridiculous.
Do you know who Richie reminded me of as well? Do you remember, was it The Wizard with Fred
Well, that's
Savage?
what I just mentioned. Yeah, that's why it reminded me of it.
Yeah. Oh, the kid from there. The hair and everything was the same. Oh, you mentioned that, did you? Sorry, you again rattled. You rattled off so much, I kind of lost it.
Sorry, my apologies. Yeah, that whole sequence reminded me of The Wizard.
When he turned around and he said, like, I love the Power Glove. It's so bad. Like, oh my God, those two characters could have been the same person.
They really could have, but the weirdest one, because there was 3 kids, and the one to his left, or our right, looking at the screen, was such a weird looking kid. He looked like a 45-year-old man trying.
The one without the hat.
Yeah. You look weird as fuck, that little kid. It's like, what? He was like a little goblin in the corner. And sorry, I do apologize, whatever, but he just looked weird. It's just like, you're trying to. The idea is that you're supposed to have like 3 badass kids. Like that's the whole point of, Big Boy Richie, is that he's supposed to be a badass. And he and his friends, like, in fairness, for the most part, he looks the part, but his 2 friends just don't look like badass kids at all. They look like dweebs. And I'm just like, you couldn't have got better kids for this sequence, like scarier kids. But anyway, it's an absolutely ridiculous sequence. But like so much of this film, I still kind of enjoyed it. Maybe because it reminded me of the equally shit The Wizard.
You want to talk ridiculous sequence? He taught Mike how to drive a truck. So that was equated then to him being able to to steal a pickup truck and to drive it.
Totally dope Toyota 4Runner RN61.
But drive it all the way to the fucking airport with nobody pulling over a 12-year-old kid.
Again, 80 shit. Not only does he, like you said, the truck thing should be the shocking thing, but the fact that he got away in the airport, that he runs back on the plane and then just ends up with the luggage, like the idea of that happening in 2024 is just is unthinkable.
It's
But in
not happening.
1987, you're just like fucking anything went to airports.
Well, they let him get on the plane. Honest, they let him buy a ticket, get
Yeah.
on the fucking plane to fly to Las Vegas. Like it was fine. Unaccompanied minor, nobody fucking questioned it. They let him off the plane.
So weird.
They let him turn around to run back towards the plane when two
Mhm.
random guys in suits went, oh, there's Michael there. He was able
Yeah,
to get onto.
the fact that those two guys came right up to the plane and then basically ran onto the plane with
Yeah.
nobody saying shit.
And then he's able to get onto the tarmac,
Mhm.
get into the luggage carrier thing.
Yeah.
Then that's driven to the actual luggage bay where it's thrown onto the conveyor belt. Nobody's
Where he just
questioning this kid.
where you got to think he goes round the conveyor and then all of a sudden you're just waiting for your luggage. Then a fucking small child just pops the fuck out of one of them. Nobody calls the police. What
You
the
get
fuck?
one though. You get one woman in the background going, "What's that kid doing there?" Like one person questioned the entire
But
thing.
that it happens in these films. It was like when we did the Golden Child on the podcast, and they basically just abducted that woman in the middle of an airport.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like you
Oh,
like
that was
cops
Big
have got
Trouble in Little China.
assault. Oh, Big Trouble in Little China. I do
Yeah.
apologize. Was it Big Trouble in Little China? Oh, yeah, I think it was. You are correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, this like even before that, there's a really bizarre sequence where, again, the whole thing with the mother, it's so underplayed, and then all of a sudden she's just dead. And the bedside manners at that hospital when they show up, it's like this is the second week in a row where we've done a podcast with terrible bedside manners in movies. Where they remember the Blob when they showed up at the hospital and everyone's just
Yeah.
rude as fuck. Nobody's necessarily rude at this hospital, but they're weird. Like he goes up and asks for his wife, and the woman looks so suspicious behind the desk, like you're like, well, she's clearly dead. Then she goes and says to the doctor, it's like, oh, you probably need to speak to Hawk. He doesn't take him into a room. He just tells him in the foyer, oh, yeah, your wife's fucking dead, mate. What the fuck? What the fuck, man? Unbelievably terrible bedside manners at these hospitals.
Do you know they were hinting? Obviously, she was going in for an operation, but they were hinting that she was going to die every time you see her on the phone. You only see her like 2 or 3 times.
But she
You
talks
see,
like, Hawk,
yeah, but
you gotta
you see
take
it.
care of my...
You see her twice on the phone, and then once with Robert Loggia, and she's getting progressively paler and sweatier every time you see her, as if to say,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, you're not gonna like, they're not gonna make it. She's fucked."
Yeah,
Like,
she's definitely
yeah,
she like it's in the post from the opening sequence, but and I know you don't consider it an action sequence, despite the fact that it's clearly the biggest action
it's
sequence in the movie.
not though, is it?
Hawk, regardless of the semantics of it, can we both agree that Hawk definitely overreacts after the funeral?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
sure, she's dead, and Mike, let's be clear, who left him, who's run, he wasn't abducted at this point. He's run back to Robert Loggia, yeah. So he goes and knocks on the door. They're like, dude, you're not welcome here. And again, he doesn't go in the day. He rocks up in clearly the middle of the fucking night, demanding to see his son. They're like, not today, sunshine. He then drives a truck through the gate and then through the front of his house. What in the fuck did he think he was going to achieve with that? Then he goes all that doe-eyed thing. Mike, it's like, what the fuck? This guy's an absolute psycho. Like he's never getting. I'm amazed they had to go through the legal process of signing over custody. Clearly Robert Loggia has very good lawyers. The whole thing is he's loaded. And his supposed father, who's been estranged his entire life, at the first sign of trouble, drives a truck through the guy's fucking house. Dude, you don't have to pay him off. And no court in the world is going to give him custody of his son.
can we say as well? Speaking of the son, can we say Mike's a bit of a pussy? Any chance he gets, he cries. Oh, this guy beat me at arm wrestling. I'm gonna cry. Oh, my mother's passed away. I'm gonna cry. Okay, that's a bit mean, but
no, I
any
get
chance
it.
he
No,
gets,
yeah, that's the
crying.
one time of all the ones to pick. Like, his mum's died. That's probably fair enough. But the idea, like, he's gone to military school. It's like, has this not toughened him up at all?
Well, no, and he was more of a bitch. He's bloody questioning his commanding officer. Like he's there going, "No, sir, I won't do what you say." Hang on now. As a military school taught you anything, we know you've been here for years. There's a picture of you in Hawk's truck where you're a baby in a military outfit. So you've been coming here for a while.
Yeah, he's a prick.
So yeah, how about you have some manners, you prick? Yeah, and
yeah, he's such a prick.
In regards to Robert Loggia as well, what's his business? Is he a criminal?
Yeah, I think it's like the equivalent of the father from Home Alone, only
Yeah,
less subtle. He's clearly up to no good. And the way he talks to everyone, like that's the thing. In this film, the way he talks to everyone, the way he goes about his business, everything screams crime boss, but there's nothing to back it up in the movie. So we're just like, well, he's just a rich dude. Again, have the crime elements, have him connected to Bull. This all makes loads more sense instead of these two disparate bad guys who have nothing to do with each other, and then you kind of have a showdown against one. There never really is a showdown with Robert Loggia. They have a talk. He pushes Terry Funk through a window, and that's kind of it. It's such a strange movie. But the one thing I will say, and when it does all come together, because you really what you're doing is like, yeah, they have the relationship. He's driving around his truck, blah blah blah. But what you're doing, you're gearing everything up towards that big arm wrestling competition. Now, I can understand on paper where they probably thought we shouldn't have too much arm wrestling because arm wrestling is inherently an uncinematic sport. But they do an amazing job of selling it at the end of the film.
yeah,
That's why I think most of the budget went. The actual tournament at the end, yes, they all look very glistening and very sweaty. It's all vaguely ridiculous, but it's filmed really well. Like the guys that they have are all super memorable. It reminded me of Bloodsport, where like, oh, there's like a genuinely memorable kind of final eight. They all have characters. And one of the best things it does is have that kind of 30 for 30 style where they have each of them being interviewed, almost like they're doing like a documentary for the arm wrestling competition.
yeah,
So they
yeah.
all talk directly to the camera, like, balls about breaking arms and stuff. And then other dudes, they're just like wild. And, they give their reasons. So like, why didn't we get like 45 minutes of this instead of 25? It's
You get
easily the best bit of the film.
the team two things, right? The first thing, the Teamster guy, when
Mm-hmm.
he's being interviewed and he says, I'm like a machine, I'm like a car, I'm a fire plug.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck is a fire plug?
Well, these guys clearly aren't the smartest. I mean, we were also dealing with John Grizzly just eating cigars in the middle of the competition. I
Not
don't
the
think that
cigar.
should be allowed.
He's my second one. To try and intimidate Hawk, he drinks motor oil
Yeah,
or
yeah. Like
gasoline or whatever it is, and he says, I'm fuel to take you on. And then he beats Hawk. Great. Okay, so the oil was helped. That's gotta be like some sort of
the oil
enhancement.
definitely helped.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's gotta be some sort of enhancement. He needs to be checked for that. But
Mhm.
then when Hawk comes back and you see him again, he's putting Alka Seltzer, like different multicolored Alka Seltzers in a drink and drinking it. Because obviously his stomach is wrecked from drinking fucking motor oil.
Absolutely fucked. Again, it's really silly, but they do make for genuinely memorable characters at the end of this film. And I actually really like the arm wrestlings. Like, my big issue though is, like he turns his cap backwards. There's two issues actually. One, when he turns his cap backwards, it is hanging on. He has it down to the
Yeah,
final
to the last
button,
one, yeah. Yeah. Even
which
when he
I'm
puts
just
it
like,
on Mike's head,
how big
it's
is
on
your
the last
fucking
button.
melon, or how small is that cap? I've never had a cap down to like the last kind of connector. And two, his whole shtick about going over the top is he kind of like readjusts his grip. But I've fucking, like when you're younger, you arm wrestle your friends. There was always that one douchebag who would try and grab your thumb as part
Yeah.
of like, to try and get an advantage. So you're not like hand to hand. They literally wrap their hand around your thumb so you can't get any purchase. That's ostensibly what he does. And I'm like, would that be allowed? Now, of course,
Well, as soon as
that
he releases
seems,
his grip, I gotta think it's illegal.
well, it would just be hard to like even like with that much pressure to like remove your grip and like put it back. But then we are splitting hairs because, as you mentioned there, you've got a dude smoking a cigar when he does it and drinking motor oil. Bull punches him in the face in the final. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that is immediate disqualification, even in the 80s. Not to mention the fact that surely there would be weight classes. Like they mentioned the fact that, he's a giant, blah, blah, blah. But arm wrestling, well, I know for a fact that nowadays in arm wrestling competitions, of course, there are weight classes.
Yeah.
Like, just there is no way Hawk can beat Bull. He's just too large of a human being. It's
And it
ridiculous.
wouldn't last that long either. Like his arm would be ripped off. There was two other things I was thinking about when I was thinking about the final. We mentioned a lot of the characters. We didn't mention the one guy who was wearing the white vest, but what looked like
Awesome,
he was wearing the
awesome.
white vest that was back to front
Mm-hmm,
because his tits were just hanging out, like
I don't know
constantly.
how. I don't know how he pulled off though. I was just like, again, it made for an oddly memorable character, despite the fact that it's ridiculous.
And what was up with Hawk's arm sleeve? I mean, that's not helping him in any way, shape. There's nothing in there's
But
no ice in there or anything, but he takes it off before he wrestles. So what is it? What's
Well,
the
do you
arm sleeve
notice as
thing?
well? It's on the poster.
Yeah,
He's wait like because in the poster it's like he's leaning over and it's like super prominent. It's on his arm, and I'm just like, isn't it just like an ice pack? Because like that's the point. He's like, oh, I feel like I twinge something. So I thought he was wearing it as almost like a support, like an ice pack ahead of things. But he wears it when he goes up to see Robert Loggia, and I was going to say fights Terry Funk. He just pushes him through a window, doesn't he? After he punches him in the stomach.
yeah.
But it seems to me that it's just like I said, an ice pack, but it's on the poster as if it's an arm wrestling thing. So I really don't know. Is the answer of truth be told?
It
Very
was,
strange.
it was
But there's like
absolutely
a whole
insane.
bunch of dudes. I mean, I like the fact that they usually like they're a multi like I think it's world arm wrestling champion and future professional wrestler Scott Norton makes an appearance in the film. There's professional arm wrestlers such as Alan Fisher, John Vreeland, uh, Cleve Dean, and Andrew Cobra Rhodes as the final match referee. So there's like a whole bunch of people who make appearances in this film, and they're sold as being like, oh, they're real arm wrestlers. I didn't know it was like, is it that big a thing? Or was it ever? Did it have a moment in the 80s that we're just simply not aware of?
I don't know. I mean, what you gotta love, all sport has a following. All these, like, I mean, I
Yeah,
always think back to Dodgeball, ESPN 8, The Ocho. That
yeah,
shows
yeah, yeah.
all the random sports. So this it feels like that it'd be on that channel. Like I said, curling is a fucking Olympic sport. Why is brushing the ice a
Well,
sport?
yeah, no, I think you're right because if like one thing it keeps popping, like you watch like one video and then all of a sudden it's just you constantly get a stream of it. One thing that keeps popping up on my feed are slap fights,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden that seems to be a thing. Like, yeah, it's niche, but people watch it, and it's the same with like video games. Like most people you talk to on the street, everyone's heard of say like Mario and all these other things. But if you said like League of Legends to a lot of people, they wouldn't have a fucking clue. But like literally, like millions upon millions, it's like one of the most popular video games in the world. But most people haven't got a clue. So maybe there was like this relatively large niche following for arm wrestling, and maybe it still exists for all I fucking know.
You
Like
go
like
in
slap fights.
you go into the esports side of it where I've never watched an esports match, but apparently it's big business to do like Pokemon or
Yeah, I'll do those
yeah,
esports. Like, it's always really interesting when you see again, like, to bring it back to say League of Legends or some of these games where I don't know shit. Like, I'm a video game guy, but I don't know anything about PC games. But then you see, if you ever see the tournaments happening, not only are they played in massive auditoriums with huge crowds, but the actual like what you get for winning is in the millions. Like, they are massive prize pools for those. I remember the first time I ever saw it, and it was before it like, really came over here because this was like 10, 11 years ago. I was in Seoul in South Korea, and I was walking past this huge auditorium. There's like this massive line of kids all sitting outside. And I poked my head in, and it's just like you said, like the CIA in Cardiff, like like
yeah,
4,000 capacity. I was like, what the fuck? And somebody spoke English. I was just like, oh, what's actually going on? It's like, oh, it's a League of Legends tournament. And the prize, the first prize winner gets like $1 million. Like, holy fucking shit. And that was 10 years ago. And it's only
yeah.
got bigger since. So, and truth be told, like, if I turned on the TV after we're talking now, and like you said, I had ESPN 8 the Ocho and arm wrestling's on, I'm probably fucking watching arm wrestling. Like, well, maybe just based on this, maybe I've just got it in my head, but it's like, it's kind of fun, right?
I mean, we already know the rules, don't we, of the arm wrestling? It's a double elimination.
It's a
Just
double
in case,
elimination.
it is a double elimination.
It's definitely a double elimination. Double elimination. Remember, everyone, it's double elimination. So it's really dumb. I actually quite enjoyed the show down at the end. I think the trophy presentation is bananas. Like somebody in the crowd's just fucking handing it across to everyone. There's nothing official. It's just kind of airlifted in through the
Yeah.
crowd, and then it's just like Robert Loggia just gives up on everything. It's like, oh, well, I guess that's his kid now. The ending to this movie is as dumb as the rest of it. But by the end of it, I was kind of smiling, and I was like, yeah, I still kind of like this film.
Oh yeah, it is a dumb as shit movie, but
Oh,
it's
100%.
enjoyable. I mean, I said it's enjoyable. It's not going to equate to what I give it when I give my score later on, but it is. It was enjoyable to watch. It really was.
This
I mean, I
my
wasn't
score is an aggressive example of the score. Put it that way.
I wasn't bored with it. I wasn't upset with it. I had fun watching it. I probably won't watch it again, but
You know why though, don't you? 90 minutes.
yeah,
90 minutes doesn't outstay its welcome. Yeah, it's dumb, but if you're dumb and entertaining for 90 minutes, it's fine. That was another issue when I watched Axel F. It's like it was like 2 hours long. I was just like, dude, man, this film should have been like, if that
yeah.
film was like 95, 100 minutes long, it would have been much better.
Nobody believes in a 90-minute film anymore, and I don't understand why. It's the perfect time. Do you
Such a
know we've
shame.
been talking about Kenny Loggins a bit as well? Did you notice
Hmm.
Lincoln gives you the halfway? speech as well. He's talking
Oh,
to
yeah, yeah,
Michael
yeah,
and he
yeah.
goes, "The world meets nobody halfway. When you want something, you got to take it." Like this, if this film does nothing else, it forces its message down your throat, no matter what the message is. If it's over the top, if it's double elimination, if it's meet me halfway,
Hmm,
you are
hmm.
getting that spoon fed to you over and over again.
Yeah, because like that's the only dialogue in the movie. Because every time
Yeah.
you think like the dialogue stops and then it's just another song, and that's absolutely fine. All right, should we move on to favorite scene?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just be quick because we literally just talked about it. It's definitely the competition. I mean, I did mention I like the opening credits, like being like full on Americana, but the answer is the competition 100%. It's like
For me
somehow
too.
they turn the arm wrestling competition into a genuinely compelling show. And I just think they should have had a bigger setup. We should have spent more time on those characters. I would have happily had, like I said, half the film being arm wrestling, but hey ho.
I was about to praise you then. I thought you did so well. You gave me your favorite scene and then you didn't elaborate. And I thought you've done really well. You've done what the brief was before. I'll just give you my favorite scene. And as I'm about to speak, you went, no, 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 I need to elaborate on this. And you
I
just went on.
always elaborate. And it's a podcast.
So considering it's the last third of the movie, it is for me as well, my favorite scene, the arm wrestling competition. A lot happens in it. It fucking goes a mile a minute to the point like you if you blink, you've missed that the women's competition ends. You see
Yeah.
three women wrestle and arm wrestle, sorry, and then all of a sudden, yeah, there you go. That's the end of the women's competition. They can move on now. So we got the men coming in. It's like
Mm-hmm.
fucking hell.
It's
But
very much a token gesture, which let's be clear, actually, for 1987 was probably quite progressive that they even
mm,
had the women in it at all. But yeah, it is a 100% blink and you miss it back to the dudes. But like, I don't think the guys even get enough time. So yeah, what can
that
you do?
sounds like that sounds like your autobiography. Now back to the dudes.
Back to the douche. Just no explanation. The rest of the book has nothing to do with it. Just Liam Pritchard. Back to the dudes.
Yep.
Liam Pritchard smells like a man.
Smells like balls.
Oh, good God.
Right. Loves.
Loves number one. Lincoln Hawk is one of the great leader man names. We've already alluded to that, and the fact that Stallone just looks great. He looks great when he looks great. He looks terrible when he looks terrible. It's just one of those weird films. The truck is dope. We've not really mentioned the 1955 Peterbilt single axle Model 281 with an unidentified 1946 tanker as a trailer. Absolutely awesome, despite the dodgy brute advertisements. The aforementioned white Toyota 4Runner RN61 pickup stolen by Mike is also amazing. And I don't know the name of it, but the truck at the end is fucking awesome. They all just, to me, do you know what they look so cool? They all look like they might transform into robots. They're just those kind of cars. And number three, just the simple fact that it got made. An arm wrestling movie from a guy who had hardly directed, like, to make that movie with Sylvester Stallone 2 years after Rocky 4 and fucking Rambo First Blood Part 2, like when he was the biggest movie star in the world, there was enough money in the bank to convince him to make an arm wrestling movie. It's a miracle. And I'm going to number four has to be in there, the soundtrack, but especially Kenny Loggins. So those are my loves.
So I had the name down Lincoln Hawk as well, as I said at the beginning. That is a fantastic name. I think it's wasted on this, but it's such a great movie star name. The soundtrack, I really like the soundtrack. I'm for music like this, it always builds you up, doesn't it? You always have a fun time.
Oh,
You
dude,
get more out of it.
every song sounds like you are soaring on an eagle carrying an American flag. It's ludicrous, but in the way that only works in the 80s. Because as we've mentioned on so many podcasts, and one of the reasons we like going back to these 80s films is that they'll never be recreated. Like you couldn't have this film because it's so like there's no irony with this film. There's no irony with the soundtrack. Everyone's just like, yeah, this is fucking dope. This is America, bro. Nowadays, it would just be total self-awareness. You couldn't have Kenny Loggins playing that song over that sequence without everyone fucking laughing. But when we watched this in the 80s, it was just like, yeah, that's some emotional stuff right there. Fucking amazing.
And number three, the fact it's 90 minutes long.
Oh,
I mean,
great.
you cannot push the emotional drama more than you had with this. Do not make it any longer. I no, I'll save it for making a change. I would give it 5 more minutes, maybe, just for when I give my making a change part. So I'll save it for that. But the fact
I would
it's
just have
short.
more arm wrestling and less Mike. Easy.
It shouldn't have been about Mike. It
Well,
should have just been.
that leads directly into hates. Number
Mike.
one, and I suspect he'll be on both of our lists, is Mike. Number two, the lack of bull and arm wrestling. I think he looks, despite the weird thing where he puts his hand on Mike's hand, it's a little bit creepy. I actually think he looks totally badass in that sequence when he goes into the truck stop and he just stands there sweating, just looking totally intense. Like I said, I think they should have found a way to connect him to Robert Loggia and keep them both as the bad guys. But anyway, and number three, Stallone's cap being on that last run just fucking stresses me out. No cap should be on the last run. And if you need to wear a cap on the last run, your head's too big. You shouldn't be wearing a cap. So those are my hates.
Notice how I haven't spoke when you say about the caps on the last run. Growing up, that was me.
Oh dear God!
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a melon, but Jesus Christ!
Yep. That's why I don't wear caps anymore. Although I think my head has shrunk because I'm not on the last rung anymore. So
You don't
I think as I've
look
gotten
like. I mean, you
older.
don't look like you've got a small head, but I wouldn't immediately guess because you look like you're more like me. You've got like a longer face, so you
Yeah.
don't look like you'd have one of those fucking giant melons where you can't get a cap on by any stretch. But hey, I'm not going to go around your house measuring your head. Put that way.
We'll see.
Although that would work quite well with my autobiography, considering the name. So
What was the name again? Oh,
I don't know. It was like it
Back to the
smells like a
Dudes.
man, or Back to the Dudes.
Back to the dudes. Back to the dudes. Number one for my hates is Michael, obviously. Number two,
I love that you went formal. That's how much you hate him. He's never referred to as. He's always referred to as Mike. Do you know who I hate? Michael.
Michael.
I hate Michael, and I'm not calling him Hawk. He doesn't deserve a cool name like Hawk. He's just Michael, the little cunt.
well, his name's Michael Cutler, isn't it? So he doesn't even get the Hawk.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
got his
Michael
granddad's
Cutler.
name.
Yeah, that's a suitably cunty name.
Although, number two, Christina Hawk. So they never divorced.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point.
I didn't like her because,
Bland.
well, she didn't stick up for fucking Lincoln in any way, shape, or form. Your dad's pushing you apart. You still love this guy. You've let him leave because your dad's been a dick. So basically, you just stayed for the money. Is that what he's doing?
Yeah, I don't think the more you think about it, the less she is covered in glory. We don't want to speak ill of the dead, but yeah, she's not great in this film.
And it's this entire family, except for Lincoln. Number three, Robert Loggia. Not so much. There was just no. There was. What's the word? There was nothing more about his character other than I want my grandson. No explanation as to why. No explanation as to why he's so powerful. Any of this. It just. Yeah, there was no character.
That was the big issue with the film.
Yeah,
like
there was
I
no
said,
character depth for him.
Yeah, they really should have like kind of made him more of a threat, and like I said, combined him with Bull, whatever. But instead, it's like these two disparate entities, and none of them really get enough to work individually. So yeah,
you know what Bull should have been? I agree. It should have been Bull should have been the Terry Funk part. Bull should have been Ruka.
100%.
And then he's entered the competition to take out Hawk.
Yeah. Anything like that, or like even if he gets in touch with Bull, like he sees him at the truck stop or something like that, and he's like, "I've got a proposition for you." It's like this guy cannot win. So then Bull kind of like terrorizes him, shows up on the road. They have like a few like coming-togethers and stuff like that. Maybe a fight which he loses, and then he has to arm wrestle him later. Just something like that. But hey, or whatever, man.
We've covered most of Terry Funk's filmography as well. There's not the wrestling side. Yeah, Roadhouse, Over the Top, and there was another one I just saw that we've done that he was in. Rambo 3.
Oh my God. Terry Funk's in Rambo 3.
Stunts.
Okay, fair enough. He was a good wrestler as well. Any alternative titles for this film? Well, there's obviously a few because there was like the working title, blah, blah, blah. Wasn't it released as something different in like India or something? Am I making that up? Anyway, you'll tell us now. I'll just wait.
Yeah. So in Argentina, it was called Hawk.
That's fine.
I don't know where Brazil's getting this from. Falcon, the champion of champions. They've just decided on a different bird.
Yeah, you can't be doing that. That's ridiculous. Assholes.
Bulgaria, At the Top.
No, that's terrible.
French Canadian, The Arm Wrestling.
The arm wrestling. Le arm wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Croatia just couldn't be asked. Top.
No, it can't just be top in Croatia. Get to
I'm not lying to you. It's just top. I mean, some of these, like when we do the alternate title, sometimes you might think that I'm just making these up.
Top sounds pretty made up. But okay, fair enough. Croatia, top it is.
Czech Republic, To the Attack.
Nope.
Finland going for the porn version. Over the Top, Harder Than Steel.
Yeah, that's definitely the porn parody version for sure.
Although, yeah, Germany going for the porn version as well, or what could be your your other autobiography, Over
My
the Top.
follow-up.
Over the Top, My Daddy Beats Them All.
No, that can't be. Ah, Germany, for fuck's sake. My daddy beats them all. So disturbing. So disturbing.
Greece, All About Everything.
Sounds like a Taylor Swift song, but sure.
Yeah. Hungary didn't want to go over. They went beyond the
Just
top.
beyond the top. Yeah,
Mm.
that doesn't work. These are bad. Yeah, this is a bad bunch.
Well,
Except for the first one. Argentina was actually pretty dope with Hawk.
Lithuania, Two Top.
Nope.
Mexico, I the Falcon.
Again, it's a Hawk. All right, sure.
Peru, The Fighter.
No, there is a film called The Fighter, and that doesn't make any sense because he's not a fighter. Yeah. I guess you could make, well, he is a fighter, but he's not a fighter, if that tone makes any sense.
Poland, More Than Everything.
Nope, that sounds like a Celine Dion song.
Portugal, The Wrestler.
Again, just needlessly confusing.
Romania, The Iron Fist.
No, this sounds like a movie about communism in Russia.
Taiwan, Beyond the Peaks.
Again, no. These are really bad.
Ukraine, With All Your Might.
I thought, and again, we spend quite a lot of time criticizing Over the Top as a title. Turns out it's easily the best of the bunch.
Vietnam are given a halftime speech. Go above and beyond.
Oh, okay, that's quite nice.
Mm. And that's it. That's all you get for alternate titles.
Well, the first one was easily the best, so the only real alternative to Over the Top is Hawk, as far as I'm concerned. Any facts for this movie?
Yeah, you've covered a couple already. So you've covered like Stallone taking all the money and being unhappy with the film. But that's like Stallone's MO, isn't it? Because we mentioned Cobra a couple of times on this podcast, and Cobra was the bastardized love child of the Beverly Hills Cop script that he was asked to write, wasn't it? Yeah. So unless he's put something into it, then he's not happy with it. Which
it's
weird,
weird
worked
though.
out for him.
I think it speaks to Stallone's charm and enduring kind of charisma that if we, because for some reason we've kind of bundled these two movies together now, maybe because they're interesting flops to one extent or another with Cobra and Over the Top. Yet they're still really interesting watches. They're hugely flawed movies, but I genuinely enjoyed going back to both. And part of it is just Stallone being Stallone. I'll always make the argument that given the right role, Stallone's actually quite a good actor. That's not the reason he works. He just has that screen presence, that's something where, whether it be dressed up as fucking Cobra or going on an arm wrestling competition and the full get up, the trucking, just like, it just fucking works. Like, why does he make these stupid films so oddly watchable? But he does.
So, John Brenk, Brenk. I'm going to go Brank. I think the Z might be silent. The real-life arm wrestler who inspired the Lincoln Hawk character, fucking couldn't have told you this is a true story, won in the truckers class of the actual over-the-top tournament and won the Volvo white truck and Trailmobile trailer that were the grand prize in the movie. It was worth about 250 grand. Brank then took the truck on tour across the country to promote the film. He later sold it and bought a 1987 Corvette with some of the money. It was an actual over-the-top tournament and truckers class.
The fact that he sold the truck to buy a Corvette is just so American. So American. In the best possible way, to be clear.
Rick Zumwalt was paid 10 grand to shave his head for the film. He liked it so much he never let his hair grow back.
Good. He looks fucking dope in this film with the handlebar mustache and everything. And he is fucking ginormous in this film. When he goes into that bar and he stands next to anyone, you're just like, oh, this guy is an absolute unit.
Which is odd because he was actually the studio's third choice for Bull. They originally wanted arm wrestling champion Cleve Dean, but he was so massive compared to Stallone that it wouldn't have looked believable. So he's bigger than Bull.
It might be a height thing, maybe.
Yeah. So they went with professional wrestler Ox Baker, but when Baker didn't pan out, their role went to Zumwalt instead.
Yeah, it worked out. Like I said, the only issue is he just didn't get enough screen time.
David Engelbach was appalled at the changes made to his script. He recalled having tears in his eyes when he saw the film. He remarked that the original draft wasn't nearly as dumb as the final film, and it was more about truck driving and arm wrestling than it should have been. What else is in there?
I can totally see the different version of this film, but that his version of the film seems to align with what Stallone suggested when we said, like, oh, he thought it should have been, there should have been more threat, less music. But I'm wondering if that movie stands the test of time in the weird way that this has. Like this film has turned into a cult movie for a very specific reason, and it's nothing to do with quality. Like I suspect that a better version of this film probably doesn't live quite as long in the memory, but no, maybe I'm wrong.
A real life over the top arm wrestling tournament was created once the movie was approved for production. Organizers worked closely with producers at Canon Films in hosting the tournament while the film was being made. The contest was described as the biggest event in arm wrestling history, beginning with the first qualifier in Beverly Hills in August 1985. The competition lasted a year throughout North America and included qualifying events in Europe, Israel, and Japan. The finale took place on July 26, 1986, with an 18-hour marathon tournament at the Las Vegas Hilton. The movie featured many real-life arm wrestlers and footage from the Vegas finals. The only exceptions were the scenes that featured Sylvester Stallone, whose matches were filmed the day after the real finals. The same location was used, and the extras who made up the audience in those scenes with the same fans who had filled the venue the day before.
See, right, I think there's something to the idea of having like an obscure competition and attaching it to a place. Like you think of like Nathan's hot dog eating competition in Coney Island. Like if you go to Coney Island, it is Coney Island, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
south of Manhattan in the Bronx.
yeah.
Not the Bronx. What's the other one? South of, oh my God, not the Bronx, Brooklyn. I do apologize. If you go down there, there's like all year round, they've got a massive scoreboard with like, the last winner, how many days there is, how many hot dogs there is. And like, if you had like, like a relatively small town, but you made it your thing to be like, all right, every year we're having the arm wrestling competition and the whole world is watching that. And that's the big event. I think it would totally grab people's attention. I just think it needs to be more centralized, like attach it to a place, but I don't know, whatever, man. All of a sudden now, I just want to see an arm wrestling competition, truth be told.
Yeah. The truck appears in the 1989 movie The Wizard. The first appearance says Hawk Trucking on the driver's door. A few minutes later, the passenger door has a white sign with a different name on it.
Yeah, that's the 1955 Peterbilt single axle. That's like the main truck.
The red one, yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's the truck that the guy from Batteries Not Included is driving.
Oh, okay.
Friend,
yeah. It's such a cool truck.
What else have we got here? The John Wetton, lead singer of the rock group Asia, sang "Winner Takes It All" for the movie. The producer didn't think his voice was mean enough, so the song was offered to Sammy Hagar, whose version ended up on the soundtrack. Hagar did a music video to. Sorry. Hagar did a music video to promote the song and the film, which featured both Zumwalt and Stallone.
That's weird because like you obviously won that. They weren't obviously that upset because Asia is still on the soundtrack doing Gypsy Soul, so they obviously took it relatively well. But I think Sammy Hagar's got the voice for "Winner Takes It All." Like it's a great track. Make no mistake. Like I said, there are three absolutely standout tracks, and that is one of them for sure.
Last one for me then. So the production company flew professional wrestlers Manny Fernandez and Sion Valihi, aka the Barbarian, to the set, but they weren't used in the film. The wrestlers were given some money for food, but instead they decided to go to a bar for drinks. According to Fernandez, Barbarian got so drunk that after a patron insulted him, Barbarian smashed his and Manny's mugs of beer over Barbarian's own forehead, then laughed as blood poured down over his face. The patrons were so shocked they called the police, who arrested Sion and put him in jail overnight. Manny called Sion's wife Sini, who bailed him out and flew him home. Sion later told Manny that Sini had cooked him a big Tongan meal when they got home. When Sione started eating, Sini blindsided him with a skillet, chastised him for his actions, and warned him not to get drunk again. Sione said, "Brother, I crawled on all fours and she kept hitting me." Fucking hell.
That is such a specific story. Like someone just made that up. I mean, it's all the details. Unbelievable. So Hunt to the Future, this is where we ask the question, remake, sequels, Let It Die or Leave Well Alone. I mean, this is one of the easiest ones. Definitely Let It Die. And I mean that with all the respect in the world. This is the ultimate movie of its time. As we mentioned, between the aesthetic, the score, everything about it, this film is a 1987 movie. It belongs in 1987. Just that's fine with me.
Yeah, Let It Die as well, mate. It just needs to.
Nobody needs a sequel to this movie.
Sorry, buddy. I do apologize. Not really professional recording. My son has just walked in, and I didn't have a chance to shut the door.
Oh, hey, bud.
Say hello to Liam, and then I'm gonna finish. Okay.
All right, cool, man.
Off you go, mate.
Off you go. We're still
Let It
rolling.
Die.
We're
Yeah,
still
we're
going.
still
All right,
rolling. We're
cool,
still
cool,
going.
cool.
Yeah. Uh,
In terms of making a change, so this is where we ask the question, just like if you had to make one change for this movie, for me, it's the obvious answer, but it's less Mike and more arm wrestling. Like I said, so many great characters. It just feels like a waste. Like when I'm watching, I'm like, dude, this, like I really, and I know I've already said this, but I thought it was such a genius move to have those interviews with the arm wrestlers where they're talking to the camera. I would have,
yeah.
and they were all so compelling. I would have easily had just 10 more minutes of Ball and the crew just talking directly to the camera, telling me about their lives and telling me why fucking Grizzly Bear, whatever the hell his name is, drinks motor oil and eats cigars. But alas, it wasn't meant to be.
So I got two. So they're both based on Robert Loggia. So either just have an explanation at the end about why he's letting Michael go with Hawk,
Yeah,
or if we're not going to do that one, just have him more evil.
yeah.
Just have him more evil. Like you said, have him be the be all and end all, and have Bob Bill Hurley be his security guard that has joined the
Mhm.
competition. So I just think you need a bit more gravitas towards Robert
Yeah,
Loggia's
as I said,
character.
I'm of the mindset that, like, you need Bull to already be an established arm wrestling champion because that makes him a threat. So I like the idea that Robert Loggia wisens, to the idea that, like basically Hawk's got everything riding on this competition. So then goes to Bull and makes him this offer, like, you need to make sure he doesn't win, fuck his life up, just make sure he's in no fit state when he gets to the tournaments, all
Yeah,
that,
break his arm.
usual. Well, just like the classic kickboxer competition. You like what they do in that film? They abduct his
Kid,
brother.
kidnap his
So
brother and rape.
they kidnap his brother, and they just yeah. So yeah, maybe we won't have any rape in this film, but we'll kidnap the brother. And oh yeah, my league, good fuck. So I'm just talking about kickboxing now. But like if somebody like I know if the wife didn't die and maybe they abduct her. I know that doesn't make any sense because it's Robert Loggia's daughter, but something along those lines to make it so for at least a brief period he has to lose, otherwise somebody gets fucked up. But anyway, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
In terms of video games, unsurprisingly, no video game. But I would like legitimately love this as part of like an old school alternative games compilation. Like remember California Games? They
California
had like
Games. I knew you were going to
hack
go that for some reason. I just knew you would.
and all hacky sack and all that jazz. You could have it as like the ultimate button masher, like the old track and field games, and then
Yeah.
have like a timed button prompt in the middle of each match, which is really tricky. But if you pull it off, you ostensibly go quote unquote over the top, and it gives you like a massive power boost. So I thought that would be kind of cool. Um, or like I wouldn't mind actually if I was going to do it as its own game it would still be very arcadey because I want to retain the whole button mashing element of the arm wrestling, but I combined it with Sega's 18 wheeler series. So that was just basically an arcade game where you drove a giant 18 wheeler and you had to get from location to location. So the idea is you have the 18 wheeler, like just like in those arcade games, you have to drive from location to location. And every second you are past, say, the time limit, it reduces your power gauge when it comes to the subsequent arm wrestling competition.
Yeah.
So you just kind of combine the two worlds. So that's what I would do. But it would very much be like a kind of late 90s, early 2000s arcade game from Sega.
So I had two as well. So the first one was an arcade game. I remember there being an arm wrestling arcade game. I can't remember who made it. It used to be in Barry, but it's
Mhm.
probably it's long gone, obviously. Where you had the mechanical arm,
Oh, yeah,
and
shit. I
then
remember that.
you
Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
and then you would arm wrestle the mechanical arm, and
Mhm,
so
mhm.
you could just repackage that as over the top. But if we were going to do like an actual video game or an arcade game, for some reason in my mind, I keep thinking of Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Dude, as you were saying that, I was literally just thinking Punch Out because the characters are a perfect
Yeah,
fit for that game.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Obviously, arm wrestling, not boxing, so they're not moving around the ring. But I was thinking
But
that you had the
fundamentally, yeah, the
yeah,
same structure and stuff.
you had
Yeah,
the over the
totally.
top characters and over the top characters. Uh, so
100%.
I would have gone Punch Out.
Oh, yeah, that is the correct answer. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm kind of in love with because I'm such like a Sega arcade kid that I'm in love with my combination of like arm wrestling and 18 wheeler, but 100% the correct answer because I can visually see it with like Bull is already basically a character from Mike Tyson's Punch Out. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah.
And the dude eating the cigar and the motor all 100%. I don't quite know how we make the mechanics beyond just button mashing, but aesthetically, I fucking adore it. So yeah, and you have tiny instead of like little Mac, you have tiny sliced of tiny Hawk at the
Yeah.
front. Yeah, it'd be so cool. So yes, you very much win this week. Ratings and recommendations. For me, this is such an aggressively 3-star film. I mean, if you give it 2, I will totally understand because objectively it's quite bad. but I legitimately had a lot of fun watching this film, and I always have. But I know this is a movie made for someone like me. The recommendation is 100% no. Like it's oddly watchable, but this is still a bad movie. The only thing I will say is if you have fond memories of this growing up, but you're worried that going back is just going to be terrible, just remember it was never good. So if you enjoyed this growing up, you'll probably enjoy it now if you go back to it like I did. But in terms of like, if you've never seen fucking Over the Top, I'm not going to tell you in 2024 that you have to see this movie. That would be patently fucking ridiculous.
Same for me. I'm not going to
So
recommend
3 and
it.
no for me.
And I'm not going to recommend it. It's everything you've just said. It's fun to watch, but you don't have to go back and watch it. It's if you've seen it before, that's fine. If you've never seen it, you don't really want to watch it. I wouldn't recommend it. In regards to the score, I'm glad you'll forgive me because it is a two.
I get
It's
it. Like
yeah,
I
it's
find it oddly
100% a
charming,
two.
but
Oh no, it's not that. It's got its charm, but there is
Mhm.
such a lot wrong with this film.
Oh,
Like,
there is. I mean, a
yeah,
lot of it is, we've talked about this before, like, and we try to, because you never completely remove it. We try to an extent remove nostalgia, but of course, it does impact how I watch the film. And I have so many fond memories of watching this when I was younger. And I was just glad, I think to an extent, I was willing to forgive a lot simply because I still enjoyed it. And I was
yeah.
genuinely concerned, as I mentioned last week, that I was going to rewatch this and it was going to be a stinker. So, but the fact is, while I give this a 3-star film, objectively, like if I'm being truly critical of this film, you are bang on. It's a 2-star film, but I still think it's a 3 star simply because I enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
Next week, sir. So that's my choice. For some reason, I picked 1987's Over the Top. What is your choice for next week?
Right. So I got the quiz for you as usual. So
Go for it.
the year is 1997. We've gone 10 years.
1997. I mean, simply because the sequel's it's not Twisters, is it? Or Twister?
No, as 96, and I wouldn't have picked
96. I wasn't sure if it was 96 or 97. I actually kind of want to do that. I haven't seen Twister for ages.
Oh no,
97.
I'm
Just
saying
thinking,
I'm not saying I wouldn't don't want to do it.
Mhm.
I just wouldn't pick Twister. So we'll wait for you for
Okay.
that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I will pick at some
Yeah.
point just because I want an excuse to rewatch that film. There's a bunch of Nicolas Cage ones, but I think we've done them all from 97. All right, I'm going to need some more information.
The director, this isn't going to help you in the slightest. The director is George Armitage.
George Armitage. Is this quite an obscure film?
No,
No.
but it's random when you look at his. So I'm not going to tell you this film. Obviously, he's only done 7 films.
Mhm.
Private Duty Nurses, Hitman, Vigilante Force, Hot Rod, Miami Blues, and The Big Bounce. Plus this one.
Hot Rod, the comedy, you mean?
No, Hot Rod from 1979.
Oh, Jesus Christ, 1997. All right, I'm going to need something else.
I'll give you one of the actors. Oh no,
Okay.
tagline. Let me check the tagline. If the tagline's too easy, you're not having it. Yeah, you're not having this too easy. Dan Aykroyd.
Not like fucking, not cone heads. Jesus Christ.
No, that was 94, wasn't it?
Oh, Gross Point Blank.
Gross Point Blank. There you go.
Oh, dude, that's a fucking
Dude,
awesome shout.
as soon as
Awesome
I would have
shout.
told you, right, even a hitman deserves a second shot. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure you would
You
have got
can't,
it.
you
Yeah.
can't be doing that. Can't be doing that. Yeah, I wouldn't. Didn't get from Armitage. I think like if you'd said like Mini Driver, I think I would have got it as well. Obviously, I would have got from
Exactly.
John
Yeah, I had to
Cusack.
go.
But
I had to
Dan
go proper
Aykroyd's a
obscure.
good shout because he plays a relatively small role in the film, but he's awesome in that film. And
Yeah,
sneakily, it has one of cinema's greatest fight scenes, like ever.
with Benny the Jet.
Dude, that fight scene is unbelievable.
Yeah,
Like he kills him with a pen at the end of it, doesn't he?
yeah.
Oh,
With what's it called? His pen, isn't it? His friend. Oh, what the fuck was his friend's name?
I can't remember. Dude, I haven't
Jeremy
actually.
Piven. Paul.
This film is like over the top, but like 10 years later. And I don't mean in terms of quality, just in terms of like one of those films I watched a whole bunch of times, and then for one reason or another, just stopped. I don't have it on DVD or anything like that, and it just stopped being shown on TV. I've not seen this film for like I'm guessing like 15 years, easy.
It's been a
And
while.
it's weird because I love this film.
I'm really looking forward to going back because John Cusack plays this
Love John Cusack.
meant to be a legit hitman, but he's
Mhm.
so awkward, and that's what I love about it. He is so awkward when he talks to people and anything like that. He's just so blunt,
He's
and
quite gangly as well.
yeah,
Like he's got like an odd physicality. It works for the film. Like I do oddly buy him as a hitman, and even in the fight sequence. But he's got that kind of tall guy toughness where you're like, oh, I bet you he'd just be like hard to handle because he's just fucking all limbs.
yeah.
But yeah, that's a really awesome shout, an absolute classic from '97.
Yeah, I wanted to go something easy that you could watch because I know you're traveling down to Cardiff. So I just wanted to give you something that you could
Nothing too obscure. You're not going to go
nothing
for
too
like
obscure.
robot.
And I
This
think it
isn't the
moves
week to do robot jocks, for instance.
no, and I think it moves at a brisk pace as well. It's like an hour and 45 minutes or something like that. So
Perfectly reasonable. We
yeah,
are moving into the 90s. Movies are getting a little bit longer, but it's even in the 90s. Remember, like I was surprised when we went back and redid Independence Day. And suddenly I realized like Independence Day is on for like 2 hours and 20 minutes. Like, God
yeah,
damn, that's a long ass film. Hour and 45 is fine. And especially for this, because unlike this film, it's got a proper relationship. The relationship between John Cusack and Minnie Driver is genuinely a compelling part of the film.
yeah.
And then you've got everything with it. Like an hour and 45 is perfectly fine. So yeah, looking forward to this one. Anything else before we wrap up?
Yeah, we just one thing to mention. What I will say is before I mention this from one of the fans is if you want to get in touch with us, feel free to drop us a message on your podcast of choice. You can now do that, or send us an email at heyyouguys80s@gmail.com, or get in contact with us at the socials as you do. But we had a listener who said another great episode, and the mention of Split Second at the end has me looking forward to the day you cover that particular classic.
I guess
And
it's
my God,
inevitably
I
going to
want
happen at
to.
some point. Yeah.
Dude, that is coming every which way at the moment for me. It popped up on my fucking things you might like on Amazon Prime the other day.
Just another of those randomly gay things you said in this episode. It's coming from every direction. Split second.
But Liam, please promise me that you will be picking Unforgiven in the very near future. Rob's comments about it a couple of weeks ago were unforgivable. I'm guessing pun intended.
I
But I'm
would
sure
imagine
once
so.
he's watched it, he'll realize how wrong he is. Best wishes, best name ever. Best wishes, Rip Van Dam.
That is a cool name. I don't
Yeah.
think he realizes just how belligerent you are and how much you will just stick to your guns no matter what. I think you watch that film, absolutely love it, and then come back next week and tell me you think it's a piece of shit. So yeah, I'm not
No,
sure if I want to pull at that thread.
I get I I have that reputation of somebody who's like if I
Oh, yeah, you
yeah
really fucking do, and for
I
good reason.
but if I like something I will say I like it, and if I'm wrong I'll say I'm wrong, but at the moment I've not been wrong.
Okay, we'll deal with Unforgiven one day. But yeah, if there's anything, well, thanks for getting in touch anyway. But if there's nothing else, I've been Liam, he's been Rob, and you have been listening to Hey Guys Podcast. Cheers, guys. Bye bye.
Cheers guys, bye now, and remember, don't let the bed people bite.
Definitely shouldn't.
Nope.
Oh, and before I forget, where can folk reach us if they were so inclined to?
Well, you can actually reach us on Hey You Guys 80s at Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. But if you want to send us a mail, do heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Send us in your recommendations. Send us in your thoughts about any of the episodes. Just literally talk to us. We'll have a one-sided talk with you on the podcast.
Yeah. We're nice folk. Get in touch. But no, cheers, guys. Bye bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Hey, you guys!